You know what this is? Just another form of inherited wealth, rising to the top on someone else's ambitions and hard work. That's what mana is. The idea that you can steal another person's power. How do you do that? Well, let's take a look at the Maori history and the history of Hawaii as well. A history of natives killing natives. It's apparently not wrong if it's natives killing natives, is it? Then it's being a mighty unifier, huh? Like the mighty Kamehameha. Ooh, there's a good one. That wasn't a good man, nor anything close to being a good man. Matter of fact, Kamehameha made Hawaii into a very Oh, connection issues. Sorry about them connection issues. Now, cultures of theft. You know, the Maori and Hawaiians weren't the only ones who had cultures based entirely on theft. Let's take a look at Native American culture. Let's talk about slavery. Native Americans had slaves. Yes, they had slaves in some places that were treated badly. In some places, they were not treated badly. It all depends on who took you and what their motivations were. The Iroquois used to take male sex slaves. Y'all have heard of the Iroquois, haven't you? How about the Algonquin? Catching yourself a male slave with a red beard. That was, well, that was a prize. Now, when we take a look at that culture of theft, and then we compare it to the European culture of theft, we come to the inevitable conclusion of might makes right. It doesn't matter how many wonderful things you designed in your lifetime for making the world a better place. The winners are going to be the ones who figure out how to use your wonderful idea to kill people, to make killing more efficient. You design an engine, they'll use it to power a bomb. You find a way to get rocks to come apart easier, they'll find a way to use that to destroy mountains. You find a way to go exploring underwater, they'll find a way to launch torpedoes out of it. Now, one thing that the Maori and a lot of this stuff that New Zealanders keep popping out, that's complete horse crap. You know, some of that history might be 100% correct. But when you're going to look at war between two peoples as any different or somehow wrong because of the color of the person who won, King Kamehameha was as brown as the Hawaiians that he slaughtered. Because King Kamehameha was a what? A Hawaiian who slaughtered his own people wholesale and made it illegal for women to even, they weren't allowed to eat coconuts. Now that sounds crazy, doesn't it? Oh, so what? So what if they couldn't eat coconuts? That's not the only thing that they couldn't eat. And they weren't allowed to eat with men. As far as having a vote, you're out of your fucking mind. Now, one thing that can be said about the British is that they were far less brutal with the local people than the local people were with each other. I mean, you've got Maori who are taking people's heads, and they literally have a cleaning festival for their fucking heads, an entire holiday dedicated to cleaning heads. Where do these heads come from? From people that you killed. The more people you kill, the more power you get. The more powerful a person you are. This is a way of thinking, a philosophy, a way of life, and a religion based on the worship of murder. Now let's talk about sacrifice. How do we sacrifice? The way that the Greeks sacrificed made sure that everyone was fed. The priests only wanted the building materials off of the cows and goats and sheep. The meat went to the people. Now, how did the Aztecs do it? That's human sacrifice, and it was pretty much useless, but same concept. The concept of stealing that person's power. Is your sacrifice to give power to the gods or to give power to yourself? Is it about God's glory or your prestige? Man, my blankets are all covered in mud again. Gross. Now we want to paint these peoples as being somehow different, somehow better. All of these hundreds of years later, these people are somehow better than the white people who conquered them. No. You were fucking conquered. End of fucking story. Now you have integrated societies. What, you want to send every white person back to Europe? How's that going to work out? We got the British always pushing this shit on Americans with Native Americans. What about America with slavery? What about America with the Indians? They're not Indians. Each tribe had its own name, its own belief system. Not every government in the United States was run by men. Some were run by women. Some were run by both. And when it comes to a family-oriented society, which they were, everybody in the family is going to have some say-so. The people in your family household that are allowed to go to the big meeting are carrying the words of your entire household. But also, we've got to understand that these are all, as are these European countries, cultures of theft and cultures of murder. Cultures where there is a hierarchy. Cultures where every single hierarchy has shown a complete disdain for human lives. That includes Kamehameha. So, I'm not going to pretend for a moment that having monsters like Waylon Lolotai coming out of such cowardly societies, all of your problems are based on white people. Well, if you want to get technical, you wouldn't be here. Wouldn't be here if it weren't for European intervention repeatedly. You'd be the property of somebody else. These European nations are the only things keeping these Maori free. You can ask the survivors of World War II. Ask the survivors on Guam. Ask them if they'd rather be occupied by Americans or Japanese. How about Samoa? Ask them if they'd rather be occupied by Americans or Japanese. Ask those places that were occupied by Japan. Now, we've got cultures that want to throw the past in our face. These survivors don't want to take responsibility for the actions of their culture and their ancestors, but they're taught that they can claim on the power of their ancestors. This is the ignorant voodoo bullshit that Waylon Lolotai believes in. What a coward. Believes that it is his right to harm people. Intentionally chose a position of power that would allow him access to easy victims. Victims that it's easy to get away with harming. Every police officer, every single one, is your enemy. All of you pretty girls who can manipulate people into doing whatever the fuck you want. When you hit about 35, you're going to realize everybody's sick of your shit. If you're still pretty at 35, just wait till you hit 65. Use it while you got it, right? Now, Waylon Lolotai, this is an officer. You guys say it's never okay to hit a girl, right? Unless you're Waylon Lolotai. It's fine for him to do it. Look at look at Kelly Clark and Michelle Rodriguez. These are both women. Boulder County settled out of court for a lot of money. Waylon Lolotai is one of those predators. A man who worships violence and harm, especially against the homeless. And you can see by who he targeted that he specifically targeted people he assumed were homeless. That's not a Waylon Lolotai tactic. That's a police tactic. You believe that anything a cop tells you to do, that you have to do by law. That is not true. If they give you an unlawful order, you do not have to follow it. That's where officers learn to manufacture things. I needed to turn in the crimes that were being committed against me, not have them ignored. I needed it to be recorded, and I needed someone to be there for my safety, so these officers wouldn't do the things that they did, because I was forced to go in by myself. Every single one of my friends and family showed. Sorry about the disconnect issue. The thing is, this is a warrior. Another disconnect. This is a warrior society that's legacy is getting its ass whooped. Sorry, warrior societies based on getting their asses whooped. They threw away all of their gods and adopted the Christian gods. Threw away their actual culture and adapted European cultures. Oh, sure, you intermixed and intermingled. That for surely happened. But you lost who you were. You are not those people anymore. You want to pretend that the horrible things that you admit your own people did to each other, and you want to pretend that it's somehow different because of skin color. The Japanese look a lot more Hawaiian than we do. The Japanese look more Polynesian than we do. The Japanese look more Native American than we do. Meanwhile, I am a Native American. I was born in the United States of America. I was born on the continent of North America. I was born in the Western Hemisphere, the Northern Hemisphere as well. You guys want to blame culturally one group or another for what is culturally a human flaw: dominion over others. That is ultimately what all of human society comes down to, is dominion over others. You make rules that you don't follow. Those rules are to appease the masses. When you don't follow the rules, it doesn't matter. You'll just lie to the masses. Of course, that doesn't really matter, does it? The Maori were not adverse to lying or to spreading disease intentionally to kill their opponents. Neither were the Hawaiians. You want to look back through history and throw a bunch of stuff at us that people did in the past that was documented. Do you stop to consider all of the things that were not documented here in North America? How many horrible monsters? By monsters, I'm not talking about sea monsters. I'm talking about blackened souls. I'm talking about the frigid-hearted. Those who, like the cowards in charge of the Maori culture, believed that their fathers' deeds and triumphs were their own. No, they are not. If your father was a great leader, that will not make you a great leader. And by that very same reasoning, if your father is a child molester, that doesn't make you a child molester. The sins of the father will be revisited onto the son. That idea does kind of go along with what the Maori teach. The whole mana thing. Sort of. By eating another man, you take his power, right? That's what your culture taught. You take all of the things that he built up in his life, all of the things that he earned, somehow you can rob those from him and make them yours? No. If the man that you killed was a father with 10 children and he raised them all, you didn't raise those children just because you killed that man and ate a part of him. By the way, the Hawaiians did the same thing. They were just culturally more brutal. How do you get more brutal than the Maori? Meanwhile, the Maori want to play on this warrior culture that no longer exists. Warrior culture. No, there's no warrior cultures alive today. There are terrorists, and there are people who want peace. And there is nothing in between. When you've got peaceful people like me being harmed by violent people like Waylon Lolotai, and we're not allowed to defend ourselves because this warmongering pussy who thinks that he's tough because he can assault a man who's in cuffs, a man half his size, to try to frame me for murder. We already know that the police go out of their way to destroy men's lives nationwide. We already know that no matter what the law says, it is biased that these officers are going to follow. Now, when you have friends or family members who are there helping you to turn it in, that's a different story. What a horrible person you are for forcing a person to turn in the cops, to the very cops that assaulted them. Why would I want to turn in Waylon Lolotai to Waylon Lolotai? That's one where they didn't. They didn't make me go to Waylon Lolotai to turn in Waylon Lolotai. Instead, they sent me to 30 other organizations that are supposed to help me. I was sent to these places specifically for assistance in turning in the abuse against me. How many of them helped me to turn in the abuse against me? All of them are mandated reporters. That's why we're sent to them, because they're mandated reporters. They accept government money specifically for a job that they're supposed to do. If they don't do that job, they lose their job. So, when these mandated reporters that I had been going to for over a year hadn't done their fucking jobs, and it resulted in Natalie Bollinger getting her brains blown out. All of these quote-unquote professionals that I had been sent to went out of their way to stick their head in the sand and go, "No, I can't hear nothing." Playing fucking stupid. Oh, don't get me wrong, it's not just them. My friends did the same thing. The police did the same thing. You pretend like if you call somebody mentally ill that it makes okay to harm them, and that is why we are such at-risk individuals. You call us mentally ill, and magically anybody can harm us whenever they want to. There's a lot of people that stab me in the back over their libidos. A lot of people who took advantage of my situation and my finances. That would be Stephanie Mejia, for certainly, and Tabitha Michelle Cook. The abuse that I had to endure in all of these places was inhumane. For these people to do such horrible things and then pretend like they're my friends. No, friends don't do that shit. You wouldn't like it if I do it back. I also proved that. These people gaslighted the fuck out of me and assisted my predators, intentionally misled the situation with me and with others. Now let's take a look at Tabitha Michelle Cook. When her new boyfriend needed to show up in court, needed to step out and do what he had claimed that he was going to. Literally the job that he was paid to do, and did not follow through. Now where did my money go, and why did it go in the direction that it went? My money was spent on jumping through hoops for the courts. All of these tens of thousands of free dollars that I was given right after Natalie disappeared. There wasn't tens of thousands of dollars. I didn't see a fucking penny. Candace Bondurant saw to that. She went out of her way to make sure that all of the people who were going to try to help me destroyed evidence, cut me off from all of those people who were trying to help me. She did this knowingly, willingly, and intentionally because she cared what other people thought. She didn't care about me not one fucking step of the way. Her and her mother did horrible things. But I'm not allowed to take them to court because I have a penis. My guilt is automatically assumed. The police would not do their fucking jobs no matter what people do to me. It's only wrong if I do it back. Meanwhile, we have cowards who come from historically cowardly countries, historically cowardly nations. Can we blame that on the Hawaiians and the Maori? No, every nation is cowardly. Every nation out there is full of cowards. You will trade one tyrant for another, over and over again. Well, these people take your hard work and lavish themselves with expensive gifts for the help that they're providing you. There is nothing honorable about the United States. So get that notion out of your head. There's nothing honorable about Europe either. So before you go trying to pretend like I'm bashing on the Maori or the Hawaiians, keep in mind that I'm not. These cultures are fucking dead. They are dead. The Tudor culture is dead. The Chen culture is dead. The culture of King Kamehameha is dead. You think differently than your ancestors did. Waylon Lolotai didn't. He believes that might makes right. It doesn't matter what the law says. It matters what he can get away with because he has a badge. When a male is victimized until he has a mental breakdown, you pretend that he's a predator for having a mental breakdown. You fucking assault him for it? You take him to the hospital, tell the hospital that he's fucking crazy and they need to inject him with drugs? There is no honor in this honor system. They need to have body cameras on their person and on at all times while on duty. They cannot be allowed to destroy body camera evidence the way that they did in my cases. They cannot be allowed to be unsupervised because they act like children, but they get paid like adults. They complain they don't get paid enough for what they do. Really? You get paid to victimize homeless. Any dollar amount for doing that is too much. The American people victimize us for free. What makes you so fucking special that you think you should get paid? What makes you so fucking special that you should get paid gross amounts of money beyond what most of us are making Plus, you get free benefits. And if you commit a felony against me, you've got a free goddamn lawyer. All the Christians I know have done horrible things. But they blame all their horrible things on someone else. The devil is awful fucking convenient, isn't he? No Christian is to be held responsibility for their actions because the devil fucking did it, didn't he? It's all the devil's fault. I don't want to live anywhere near Christians. Schizophrenic people scare the shit out of me. You talk to a spaceman in the sky, for Christ's sake. At least you're not Catholic, right? It ain't true unless the Pope says it's true, right? All the Pope does is change policies based on what's popular. Apparently now the new Pope says it's okay to be gay. How long has the Catholic Church existed, and how long have I existed? I've been sticking up for gay people most of my life. I'm 42 years old. It took the Catholic Church a lot longer than 42 years. A lot longer than 42 years to acknowledge that homosexuals are human beings too. It didn't take me 42 years. Of course, I fight for a lot of homosexuals that don't give a fuck about me. No matter what, it's all about them. Their problems are always worse than everybody else's, and everybody owes them help. Owes them help. Holy shit. I can tell you straight up, there's more than one homosexual that I personally know that I will state outright they don't deserve help. There's a difference between being a homosexual and raping a child. That doesn't mean you can't be both. You can be LGBT and be a rapist. Look at Chelsea Atkins' son. Rain identifies as a woman, but used his penis to rape his little sister, and wants to use transgender or female bathrooms. No, you're a fucking rapist. You belong in prison. You belong in a cell where you can't rape anyone else ever again. You belong in a cell in a men's prison. You're going to tell us that our insurance won't cover the kid's cancer. But now we got inmates that are demanding a sex change so they can go to a woman's prison. Or demanding that they be sent to a woman's prison because they identify as a woman. You do know what pregnancy is, don't you? What happens if you put a biological male in a pod full of women? Come on, think, people. This isn't fucking rocket science. This shit is not okay. A warrior culture is, by definition, a society of cowards and a society of lazy. Why work for something when you can take it from someone else? Why work for something when you can beat someone else into doing it for you? You want to pretend that this is a white European thing. Amazing. Nothing makes a statement like a severed head. I learned that from Chris Stegeman. Everyone should have the right to face their accuser. Nobody should be victimized for trying to turn in their predators. But what have I had to endure? Victimization at the hands of my predators and the hands of the police for trying to turn in crimes against me. When you have to turn in crimes that were committed by the police, you cannot go in alone. There's this thing called color of law. When the police, knowingly and intentionally, try to entrap you by lying to you about the law, they're actually committing a felony. It is literally a felony for the officers to do this. They are also putting your life at risk by doing so, so you actually have the right under the Second Amendment to blow their fucking head clean off. That is what the Second Amendment is for. It's so you can blow the heads off of tyrants. Legally. You have the right to own that gun so that you can blow the heads off of tyrants. Not so that you can murder poor people. I have a lot more respect for a school shooter than I have for a police officer. For good reason. I see that school shooter as doing a service for those children. They don't have to grow up in the world that their parents created and refused to do anything about. Those children will never be raped. Those children will never be forced into a society that does not accept people who are different. The ones who are autistic that were shot, they won't have to go through the life that I had to go through. The ones who are not physically attractive will not have to go through the hell that I've had to go through. The ones who had families that couldn't stay off the drugs will not have to go through what I had to go through, or what Natalie had to go through. What does a police officer do? Whatever the fuck he wants. If nobody cares about the victim. Nobody cared about me. That's what they showed blatantly and outright. They didn't care what was happening to me. They were too busy. No, you weren't too busy. If you cared, you would have made the time. Made the time to listen to me and help me turn this in. Instead of making the time to argue with me and talk down to me like I'm a retard. With the occasional blowing smoke up my ass by telling me I'm intelligent. I know I'm intelligent. So stop talking to me like I'm a fucking retard. The people in power understand one thing and one thing only. You know what ended all of that Jim Crow bullshit? Black men with guns marching on the state capitol in California. Those rich people did not give a fuck about black people because they didn't think that black people had the balls to pick up a fucking gun and point it at them. And as soon as that happened, it scared the living shit out of them. But while you guys want to pretend that all of those rich people are racist, they're not. As far as they're concerned, we're all property. And we should be forced to do what they want. We've got laws that are supposed to protect us from criminal monopolies. And yet, these criminal monopolies can have you engage in illegal contracts. Contracts that are, by definition, illegal. If those contracts do not follow the law, they are illegal contracts. Just so you know, any one of you who signed a contract with DirecTV signed an illegal contract. Any of you who signed a non-disclosure agreement, if that includes abuse, then you signed an illegal contract. Like if you work at the prisons, you signed an illegal contract. It's funny how these assholes in power can make anything legal these days, isn't it? And we don't bother with looking at case law, do we? We don't bother looking at how differently my predators were treated over me. Look at how much money Ted Bollinger got. People donated tens of thousands of dollars to these actual predators. People donated money to me. Well, they thought they were donating it to me. It didn't go to me. Meanwhile, the lies that are sold to the American public, sorry, the public at large, because this is worldwide. Now, I'm denied the right to show evidence to anyone. The most recent was Martha with the Oregon Ombudsman's Office. If you refuse to look at evidence or even allow me a way to send it to you, then you're not doing your job. You're committing immediate, irreparable harm. When I was sent to mandated reporters to turn in my crimes, see, that's the whole idea behind it, is that if I'm being harmed, I'm supposed to go to someone who is equipped to help me to turn it in. There are many agencies who are paid your tax dollars to do this, and then they say it's not their job. It's somehow magically not their job after they've taken your money. How long did it take? How much money did Jen Beebe take for doing that job before she told me it wasn't her job? Why was I sent to Jen Beebe if that's not her job? Why did Dual County Sheriff's Department send me to Jen Beebe if that's not her job? Why was I sent to Jen Beebe and Nicole Peralta to turn in those crimes when Jen Beebe claims that it's not her job? Oh, she claimed it was, but then she made no effort to do so for over a year and a half. She was court-ordered to be my advocate. And what did she do when she was court-ordered to be my advocate? She ignored me for 6 months. That's how I ended up with Megan Missigatis, who went out of her way to blow smoke up my ass, talk about herself, and do jack shit to help me to turn in my fucking predators. I needed help turning in my predators. It's nobody's job to help a disabled person to turn in their fucking predators. It's nobody's job. You have to go in with that person for their safety, or they will be railroaded by the fucking courts, you fucking douchebags. Fuck everyone in this country. There's only one good person I know. And that one good person is me. Every person that I held in high regard, every single one of them showed me that they're just cowards. That it's just might makes right. Now we've got this haka. Oh yeah, we've got a bunch of dudes who dance in tandem and scream and shout and hoot and holler and try to make themselves look intimidating. Woo. I'm fucking impressed. Now do that with ballet shoes on, bitch. No? All right, I take it back. I'm not impressed. Anyone can scream and shout. I've shown this. I can scream and shout. I can make myself look intimidating. But the thing is, why are you doing it? Those who defended themselves against King Kamehameha, those are the real heroes. The ones who stood up to mighty tyrants. The ones who said, you know what? I'd rather die than be told that I can't eat a meal with my wife. I respect those who stand up to tyrants. But if you're not going to stand up to the tyrants, you have no right to bitch. You have no right to open your mouth and complain when you're not lifting a goddamn finger to do anything about it. Waylon Lolotai is a horrible person who wants to play on the historical importance of his culture. His culture is what? Theft and murder. That's what his entire culture is based on. Theft and murder. Just like every other culture on the planet.